whole September push thing that everyone's talking about.
Oh, yeah, this is big. Okay, so imagine this. You've got two main islands, right? Boscali Major and Boscali Minor. They're connected by these bridges over like a narrow strait they call the Narrows. Think of this waterway as their lifeline, super strategically important, and right in the middle. That's Nexus Point. Remember that name? It's going to come up a lot.
Gotcha. Nexus point, check. Okay,
Yeah.
so this all kind of blows up, right? This is where the September push happened.
So what can you tell us about the events leading up to it?
Well, it started with a pretty bold move by the Primaverans.
Okay.
They launched a full-scale assault on Nexus Point.
Ah, so that strategically vital location we were just talking about?
Exactly. And they hit it hard. I mean, coordinated assaults by land, sea, and air. They even went after Boscalian radar installations, tried to blind their defenses.
Classic blitzkrieg, huh? Did it work? Did the Boscalians hold them off?
Well, they put up a fight, for sure. But the Primaverans had surprise on their side, and honestly, just overwhelming force at that point.
Yeah.
The Boscalians, they were forced to fall back, consolidate their defenses.
And once the Primaverans, they had Nexus Point. Then what?
They used it basically as a giant, well, as a launching point for their air power.
Okay.
Imagine the skies above Nexus Point. You've got these dogfights raging, crickets, compass. It would have been...
Chaos.
Yeah.
Pure chaos. But the Boscalians, they didn't just, sit back and take it, did they?
No, definitely not. They launched a counteroffensive, aimed to kind of draw pressure away from Nexus Point, disrupt the Primaveran advance. But it was a gamble, a big one.
And that's when things escalated, right?
Yeah, that's when things escalated.
Then the nuclear option, these tactical nukes, but to actually see them used,
It's a game changer.
it really drives home, the stakes we're talking about here.
Yeah.
This isn't a game.
And Nexus Point itself wasn't spared.
Yeah.
They were able to minimize civilian casualties. They had shelters and all that.
Yeah.
But the city itself, pretty extensive damage.
Makes you think about the memories of the lower town, the beach.
Yeah.
Those memories, they're gone now.
It's just crazy how fast a conflict can escalate like that.
It's terrifying, honestly. And while the shelters probably saved a lot of lives, you can see the devastation in the reports. There's even a mention of this, like, beachfront, Used to be a popular spot. Now it's just rubble. It really makes you think about the human cost of all this. Many Boscalians had, good memories of Nexus Point family vacations, first dates.
Right. It was more than just a strategic location. It was personal. Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the strategy and all that. But then you read those personal stories, it really hits you. But anyway, while Nexus Point was dealing with, all that, there was another battle going on over on Boscali Major. This one was much slower, though. More of a grind, it sounds like.
Yeah, a war of attrition, basically each side just trying to wear the other down. The BDF, though, they did manage to take out a key Primavera airbase. That was huge. Really put a dent in their offensive capabilities, but both sides were, they were losing a lot of people, resources.
Just a brutal, brutal stalemate. But the real turning point, the real clash, it was still to come.
The naval engagement in the lake.
Exactly.
This is where it gets really interesting. Two modern fleets going head-to-head in a, pretty confined space, all things considered.
Well, it was, it was a mess. In the best way. You've got these short corvettes zipping around, launching missiles, scrambling fighters, all while trying to maneuver in this, relatively small area. So reports describe it as chaotic, brutal, heavy losses on both sides.
But in the end, the Boscalians, they landed the decisive blow.
They did. They managed to sink the Primaveran fleet carrier.
Which, that's a game changer, right?
I mean, can you imagine losing your flagship? That's got to be demoralizing.
Yeah.
You don't just bounce back from something like that. I mean, how do you even come back from that? Sinking your flagship, that's like game over, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, strategically, it was a catastrophe for them. You lose that kind of firepower, the ability to command and control your forces out there on the lake. Plus, the psychological impact, right? It just completely demoralized the Primavera forces. They had to pull back from Boscali Minor. Their supply lines were shot. Calling a ceasefire was really their only option at that point.
It's a stalemate. Both sides basically back where they started, but, I mean, at what cost, right? You've got a city that's basically vaporized, people dead.
Yeah.
But how do you really prepare for that level of destruction, the psychological impact, rebuilding everything? It's
the thing about conflict that people forget. It's not just about the battles and the casualties. It's about what happens afterward, the impact it has on societies, on individuals. That's the true cost, and that's something that no matter where you live in the world, you've got to think about.
No doubt. Well, we've only really scratched the surface here. But one thing's for sure, this whole September push thing, It's a reminder that even the smallest disagreements can spiral out of control. And we live in a world where, let's face it, things are pretty interconnected, so those sparks, they can spread further and faster than we think. Something to think about, anyway.